I've been running a crypto research company now for 7 years, and I've seen so many people make these same mistakes over and over and over again. And that is investing into random altcoins, not doing the proper research, not having the portfolio allocation, or the sell strategy to nail a bull market. Now we're on the cusp of the 4-year cycle and the bull run really kicking off. I've made millions of dollars in this market, and today I'm going to share with you my exact strategy to nail this upcoming bull market so you can follow along and not miss out on what I think was going to be or will be one of the biggest opportunities in crypto to date before the market really matures and the returns start to depreciate. Now the first thing when it comes to crypto allocation in a bull market is portfolio allocation. What assets should you hold in your portfolio? What sectors should you be holding? And how many coins should you have? Well, at the moment, I think the biggest narratives leading into this bull market are going to be AI, next-gen layer ones, and also some of the big dogs in terms of like Ethereum and Bitcoin. Now, in a retail bull market, a lot of the consumer applications get a lot of attention, but ultimately where a lot of the VC capital goes and where the big VC investors come is in the infrastructure level. The infrastructure level are the likes of Solana, Ethereum, Sui. This is where the big money goes, and we can see some of these projects getting into the billions of dollars of valuations. This is ultimately where you should build your portfolio from on top of Bitcoin and then get into the smaller applications. So here is my portfolio to date. Right now, I've got about 50% of Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I think at the fundamental level should be in everyone's portfolio. For those people that have less risk, I think you should have more Bitcoin. And for those people that want to add a little bit more risk, you can lower your Bitcoin. But ultimately, Bitcoin is performing at 45% year on year compounded for the last 10 years. It's one of the best performing assets on the planet. A lot of us forget that Bitcoin performs so well and we start to look for new altcoins and new exciting things. And when the reality is that over the last 12 months, Bitcoin has pretty much outperformed every altcoin outside of about 20 or 25 coins. There's over 20,000 altcoins and only 24 have outperformed Bitcoin over the last 12 months. So don't forget Bitcoin in your portfolio. Next, I have about 30% in Ethereum and Solana. I'm super bullish on Ethereum. I've been buying Ethereum since $80. I do think there's a world where both Ethereum and Solana live. And I think ultimately Ethereum is one of those projects that has a huge decentralization blockchain. It's super secure. And I think in the future when governments, banks, institutions want to continue to build in crypto, they're going to look at something like Ethereum because of its security and its robust blockchain and how long it's been in the space. And then you've got some of the next gen layer ones like Solana who are competing on transaction speed and volume, but ultimately doesn't compete just as much with the security aspect. From there, I've got about 20% altcoins split into the different sectors that I think are gonna have the most potential in this bull market. As I said before, I think the big ones are AI, next gen layer ones, gaming. I've also got some DePIN. I've also got some DeFi as well. Now, specifically each project I'll walk you through so you know exactly what I'm holding. In AI, I'm holding Prime. Prime is like a gaming AI project that's recently launched in the last year or so. I think this is gonna have a really good intersection over the gaming space where you can build different NFTs inside the game and it has that AI flavor on top. In terms of DePIN, Honey is the physical infrastructure play. They've recently got approval to build their mapping device. Physical infrastructure plays, or the decentralized physical infrastructure plays, are essentially physical devices that do something in the real world and then they can sell that data back into the digital world. So Honey is building basically a mapping software that you can drive around, tracks all that mapping data and you can sell back to mapping companies. So I think Honey is going to perform really well, probably at the back end of a retail market. Then in the DeFi space, Maple is a favorite of mine. Maple continues to grow in total transaction volume. I'm super bullish on Maple. I've been a buyer for, an investor in that project for 3 or 4 years now. It originally actually built out of Sydney and now they have, as I said, over 400 or 500 million on TVL. They're building great, products in the RWA space. They're doing huge lending and loans into even Web 2 companies, and they continue to innovate all throughout even the bear market when a lot of the other DeFi projects basically went bankrupt. They continued to build and now they're one of the leaders in the DeFi space, so super bullish on Maple. The next one is Jupiter. You can think about Jupiter as like the MetaMask on Ethereum. Essentially, Jupiter does something similar. However, it's also got a DEX and a bunch of other different features. And I think Jupiter will perform really well in a Solana bull market. And then in the gaming space, again, focusing on the infrastructure level. I think so many people tend to focus on trying to find the consumer application, when the reality is so many of these consumer applications don't really get the limelight. These consumer applications, we've struggled to really see anything break through right now in the crypto space. We're still waiting for that ChatGPT moment of AI for crypto. So for the time being, I'm personally focusing on the infrastructure level because at least then you can get a range of different games and applications built on top of that infrastructure level. So you're not just picking one horse in the race, you're actually betting on the whole race itself, if that makes sense. So yes, potentially lower rewards in terms of being able to back that individual consumer app, but we still haven't seen that breakthrough application yet. So for me right now, I'm backing Ronin. Ronin is the gaming blockchain of choice, in my opinion. Axie Infinity was built on Ronin back in the day. Had a lot of problems, 3 or 4 years ago when it went through that period. It had a huge hack, and now it's come out the back end and continues to build and innovate. And I think it's going to be a winner in the gaming space. And the other one is DMT, and that's sort of a high risk, high reward play. It's actually a layer 3 blockchain on Arbitrum, and they're building like a streaming service with also some inbuilt games and NFTs on top. So I think DMT is going to do pretty well. Outside of that, I'm also focusing on adding some new next gen layer 1. So I think that's another big narrative this cycle. Outside of Solana, you've got the likes of Sui, also Berachain that'll be launched pretty soon. But for now, I'm just focusing on Sui. I think Sui's really got that new narrative again, faster blockchain, and right now it's got a lot of attention in the market. I think Sui's going to do pretty well. Outside of that, I'm also looking at allocating to meme coins pretty soon. I think the tokenization of society and online culture continues to be a really exciting thing. And the reality is meme coins are the most natural cryptocurrency available out there, right? In a sense that there's no VCs, there's no huge token unlocks. And if you look over the last 5 to 6 years in terms of the percentage of meme coins in the top 100, it continues to grow. And now I think there's over 10 or 12 individual meme coins in the top 100, which is absolutely crazy. The thing to think about with meme coins though is that the life cycles comes and goes really quickly. So you've got to be on top of these narratives to ensure that you're getting in and getting out at the right time. You've also got the different chains. We've got Ethereum-based meme coins, you've got Solana-based meme coins, you've got base chain meme coins, plus all the other layer 1. So there's so many different sectors to keep an eye on. And obviously you've got varying market cap sizes. So I know a lot of people try and get in very, very early on some of these meme coins. That's hugely risky. A lot of these things go to zero. I'm personally going to be focusing on the sort of top 50 size market cap meme coins. Probably going to be focusing on majority on the Solana chain because that's where you get the most of the adoption and most of the volume. So that's where I'm going to be looking. But I do think meme coins hold a position in your portfolio. It's not a huge position because from a fundamental perspective, they don't have a lot of value. However, from that speculative tokenizing of society and online communities, they certainly are, a very, very big part of the cryptocurrency industry. And there's been, a lot of those meme coins outperform to the cycle to date. So very excited about that. But the next really big thing is around the timing of the bull market. So, a lot of people get impatient, and a lot of people have been upset and frustrated that they haven't seen a lot of gains to date. But we've got to remember that bull markets are split into 2 phases, and ultimately these phases are driven by Bitcoin going up first. And if you look at this chart here, in terms of phase 1, Bitcoin tends to lead the market. And when Bitcoin leads the market, we really need to see something like the M2 money supply or the balance sheet of the US government and the banks really printing money. Right, so the M2 money supply, as we start to get the money printers coming into the economy, that money finds its way into risk-on assets. And risk-on assets are essentially assets that investors think are slightly higher risk than others, like Bitcoin. And when the money printers go up, they find its way into Bitcoin, and Bitcoin starts to grow. That's when altcoins in phase 2 starts to occur, which I'll explain in a second. But outside of the M2 money supply, we also need interest rates to come down. Now, when interest rates are high, it's essentially more expensive to go to the bank. So as a business, let's say I want to go and get a loan out of the bank to hire more employees, I've got to pay a higher return on that interest to go and do that. So it's less likely I'm going to go loan money from the bank because it's too expensive to pay back. But when that interest rate comes down, it becomes cheaper for me to go and lend money out, which means I'm going to have more money to then pump into my business and the economy, and essentially the economy grows. Very, very basic sort of description, but at a simple level, we need M2 money supply to go, interest rates to come down, and that will find its way into Bitcoin. And we've seen that over the last 10 years. If you look at the M2 money supply chart overlaid on the Bitcoin chart, it is very, very correlated. Now, over the last 2 or 3 years, we haven't had any growth in the M2 money supply, and interest rates have been high, and yet still Bitcoin broke through all-time highs, right? So even in a macro environment where it has been super positive for Bitcoin, Bitcoin has still continued to go really, really well. Unfortunately, alts haven't had the same case. Back in March, we had a relatively good little period, but it didn't quite break through with the macro factors that were playing out. I think over the next 12 and 18 months, the macro conditions will change way more favorable for crypto, and I think that's when we're going to start to see altcoins come in. And for a lot of you, you're waiting on altcoin season, and that big question is, when does altcoin season come? Back to this chart here, it really comes after phase 1, right? So Bitcoin bull markets or crypto bull markets are split up essentially into 2 phases. Phase one is when Bitcoin really goes, and you can see here over the last 3 cycles, the growth of Bitcoin tends to be anywhere between that sort of 2 and 6x range. I think it's going to be very similar this cycle, potentially somewhere between the 2.5 and 3.5x range. I think Bitcoin could get to somewhere near 140 or 150,000 US dollars, and then phase 2 kicks in. So what tends to happen is the money tends to flow from Bitcoin down into your altcoins, and you see here on the phase 2 chart, even back in 2015, 2018, altcoins had over a 230x growth across the market, which is absolutely nuts. Some other different charts we like to look at to give you a bit of an indication is blockchaincenter.net. This has a really good altcoin season chart. Again, we're not quite in altcoin season right now. You can see this indicator at the moment sitting at about 33. Tends to be a lot more in the Bitcoin season. I do think we're going to have to see Bitcoin break through all-time highs, get really in that price discovery, and then that money will rotate into altcoins. If you look at anything on sentiment tracking, or you look at even exchange wallets and signups, or even me speaking to some of the exchanges that we work with, they're really not seeing a much growth in the new exchange signups. Retail investors aren't really anywhere to be seen, and we are going to need to see that before money really flows into altcoins. Now, one of the other indicators to know as well when the money will start to rotate in is the Bitcoin dominance. So the Bitcoin dominance is essentially the percentage of the capitalization of the entire crypto market that's held in Bitcoin. And at the moment, we're sitting near about 60%. Once that starts to rotate down, you can see here back in 2017, we topped out about that sort of 80% mark. And also in 2021, we're about at 70%. And you can see that huge dive of Bitcoin dominance. That's really when we see the altcoin growth and the money start to rotate into altcoins. So another big thing to consider this cycle compared to previous cycles is that I think that this altcoin season is going to play out a lot differently. First of all, we've got thousands of more coins this cycle than previous cycles. You have to be super selective on which altcoins you choose. Not every altcoin's going to go up like we saw last cycle. We could just basically buy everything and it all go up. We've got token unlocks, we've got massive market competition, especially in the layer 1 space, in the gaming space. We've got a lot of on-chain revenue. We've actually got quality fundamental projects genuinely building now, but we've still got a lot of older chains that have just been sitting around that raised a heap of money that really haven't done too much apart from spend money on marketing and are not solving any real world problems. So you've got to be really careful about what you're holding in your portfolio this time around, and just remember that not every coin's going to go up. I speak to a lot of our members or new clients coming in, even our platinum members that sit down and they've got 30 or 40 different coins, and I can see those people that have been around since 2017 or 2019, 2021 that are still holding all those older chains. I don't think they're going to get anywhere near the same limelight as these newer next-gen layer 1s or the AI projects or the gaming projects. The older projects I do not think are going to have as much growth, and I think the biggest thing you need to be aware of is opportunity cost this cycle around. Now, obviously the 4-year cycle is still the biggest thing that happens in crypto, and we need to be super aware of that because we are coming into that period of time where in previous bull markets we've started to see significant price growth. So traditionally it happens about a year after the Bitcoin halving event, which puts us in early 2025, which we're not far off. That's when I do think we're going to start to see huge growth in the market. The election will be done, rates will continue to come down, and the money printers will be firing up. I do think that's going to be a super exciting time for crypto. But ultimately, when the portfolio goes up, we have to have the sell strategy in order. And this is the most important thing, guys. You need to have the sell strategy in order. Otherwise, you're going to round trip another cycle. And I know a lot of you are sitting there, maybe you've been in previous cycles before and you've rode your portfolio all the way up and all the way down again because you thought it was going to go higher. Or maybe you grew it from 100,000 to 400,000 and you're waiting for it to get to 500,000. Or you're at 500,000, you grew it to 900,000 and you're waiting for it to get to 1 million and it didn't get there and it came all the way down. The market does not care about how much money you have, what coins you have, doesn't care about any of that. The market will just do its thing. And when it comes to selling, the research that we've looked into is really telling that the market only stays at the top of the cycle, that top 5 or 10% for just a few days. You're essentially waiting 4 years for just a few days to sell at the top. It is very, very unlikely you're going to pick the absolute top. So my sell strategy is to really dollar cost average out on the way up. So I'm going to be selling about up to 50% of my Bitcoin this cycle, keeping 50% for the long term. Again, I want to continue to build my Bitcoin over the long term, but my altcoins, I really want to be getting out of most of my altcoins. So I'll be watching Bitcoin go up, then I'm going to watch the money rotate into ETH, watching closely the ETH BTC chart, and then as altcoins start to go up, I'm going to start to take big profits as we go up. When I take those profits, I'm going to be putting them into cash because essentially I want to rebuy back in on the lows for the next cycle, but I'm also looking to diversify into property as well. The two big goals for me is Bitcoin and property. They're the two big goals I want to continue to stack over time, and altcoins are a great way to leverage that up, but you have to sell. On the way down, if you look at previous bear markets, Bitcoin outperforms pretty much 99% of altcoins. You really do not want to be holding out altcoins on the downward cycle because you're going to bleed out massively. Now, as we head into this bull market, you're going to get super euphoric, right? Everyone gets super excited. If you've been in bull markets before, you know how it operates. You load up social media, you load up YouTube, everyone's talking about the new coin, everyone's making money. Maybe your friends got into a new meme coin. You start to get that FOMO, you start to worry that you're not making enough money, and then you start to sell down and buy new things, right? And I know it because I talk to so many people that end up with these 30, 40, 50 coins. But just remember, you're not going to be able to get in every single coin that goes up. It is physically impossible. People are gonna make money, people are gonna make more money, people are gonna make less money. You just need to stick within the realms of your portfolio, manage your mindset, and don't start chasing. And so many times in previous cycles, I start to see people start to trade crypto, they quit their full-time jobs, they think they can go all in. Remember that these 4-year cycles, for about 6 or 12 months, the market will be absolutely nuts. But for the next 3 years, it's most likely gonna be down or sideways. So you need to make the most of that period as much as possible. And I guarantee for most of you, you're gonna make a lot more money just by buying good assets and holding versus trying to get in and trying to do trading and doing all this crazy stuff. So when the FOMO kicks in and you start to refresh your portfolio every 10 minutes and maybe showing your friends, that is the signal to start selling. Once you start to show off how much money you have, that is an amazing time to remember, hey, this is probably not gonna last forever. Let's start to take profits. And remember, price targets and things are important, but people always elevate it. You know, if you have a price target for 150, I guarantee once you get to 120 or 130, you're thinking about moving that to 200,000. Write down the plan. We've got a 10-step strategy process over on our website at Collective Shift. It's completely free. You can write it out, have that plan in order, and remember these times when you get in the euphoric period, why you have that plan. Psychology is a massive thing. In the previous cycle where I made most of my money in the metaverse, where I used to make, when I did make, 30 or 40x on some of those projects, I had an accountability group. My analysts and I were all investing together. We were, buying, sharing, helping each other along the journey, and actually having independent help rather than just people telling you, it's going to continue to go up and you're watching YouTubers and influencers online is super, super important. You have to have some grounded advice around you from people inside crypto. Because I guarantee you go talk to someone outside of crypto, they'll think you're silly, they'll think you're stupid, they'll tell you to sell everything before the market's even, taken off. So have that accountability group, make sure you have some friends that know what they're doing around you. We can help if you need, but just have someone, because in a bull market, selling is the most important thing. As you know, if you don't sell, you're not gonna make any profits. And if you miss the top and you're on the way down, that's even harder because you know where your portfolio was before, and now you know you're selling, essentially at values that you weren't at before. The last thing is tax as well. Just be aware that tax is a big implication, but don't let it be a reason not to sell. Be aware of it, but just because you have to pay tax, it shouldn't be a reason that you shouldn't sell, because essentially if you don't sell, well, then you're not gonna make any profits anyway, okay? Tax is just the part of life. Understand it, have the structure in place, have some advice, but don't let it be the reason you don't sell and miss out on another cycle. So that's my plan in a nutshell, folks. If you need help with your plan, we do offer free strategy sessions. You can book in a 30-minute consultation. We've got a process, a framework that we help thousands and thousands of people with. It's completely free. We can help you, show you the journey. We'd love to help you out and absolutely crush this bull market and not miss out on another 4 years. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.